Welcome back to episode 10 of Midlife Unleashed. Whether it's your first episode or your 10th, today we're diving into something foundational, the 5 mindsets and lifestyle shifts that truly change the game in midlife health. These aren't hacks, these are hard won lessons from the front lines of real transformation. And Doug's here to walk us through them. Hi, Doug. Welcome
Hey, how
back.
you doing?
Good.
Good to see you as always.
Good to see you. I know you've been traveling a lot, lots of stuff going on. So happy to connect now and go through this new episode. I know our listeners are probably excited to hear about this episode too.
Yeah, it's a good we got a good one today.
For sure. All right.
Mhm.
So let's just dive right in.
Sure.
So I know there's a lot of people who think like there's like an all or nothing or always something kind of mentality when it comes to having routines and things like that, especially in midlife. So let's start with one of the most toxic traps, if you will, the all or nothing mindset. So how does this keep people stuck?
Yeah, well, I mean, this all or nothing thing is a tough one because it's kind of like seductive in that it feels like it's commitment, right? And everybody wants to commit. You know, you got to commit to a healthy lifestyle, you got to commit to health, you got to commit to fitness. But really what it is perfectionism in design because there is no all or nothing, right? And so especially when we're talking about at midlife, right? You're talking about perfectionism when you're dealing with, you know, aging parents, kids, career, maybe some health issues, and perfectionism just doesn't flow with that. And so it's just not reality. And what it does is it kind of slows those people who buy into that mentality down, you know, because they get going and they miss one workout and now they miss the rest of the week, right? Because it wasn't perfect. And then, you know, they have a slice of pizza and it's 3 days of binge eating and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And we all know that perfectionism or intensity with this healthy lifestyle thing doesn't work. It's all about consistency, right? And I think that's where the something comes in versus that all mentality, you know? And people who work like that, at least when I see them and I work with them, and even with my other clients, we always work on that something mentality. Right. We don't have to be all, but we always have to be something. And so, you know, as long as we're doing something, even if it's small, and as long as it's doable and it's moving us towards the goal, then that's a win. Then that's a win. Because oftentimes when you're playing with that perfectionism game, it just doesn't work. And a 15-minute walk is better than a perfect 90-minute workout that never happens. And you know, I'm not a fan of walking, you know, but when you have that all or nothing mentality, like that's the way you think, oh, I can't do 90 minutes. I can't do anything. Oh, yes, you can. And doing something is going to move you closer to where you want to go than, you know, doing nothing.
Absolutely. And I know you work with so many different clients. So what's your favorite story or someone that comes to mind who finally embraced the always something approach and, did you see their progress skyrocket?
Oh God, I got a lot of those people because unfortunately that's how a lot of people walk into the door, you
Mhm.
know. So I got a lot of those stories, but some of my clients are now starting to listen to the podcast, so I'm not going to mention any names, Nancy. But but yeah, she came in and she really had that all or nothing mentality, and when she came to me, she came with that mindset, so she would do some program, whatever it was, 3 weeks, all in, a month, and then disappear for 3 months. And then go do somebody else's program, right? And do that same mentality. So when she came to me, I was telling her that it wasn't the program she was doing, that the problem really was her and
Mhm.
that mentality, and how she had to go from that perfectionist mentality to just being consistent, doing something small consistently and building on it. And she fought me for quite some time, but eventually she believed in the 30-minute working out consistently, and if you can't do it, then go for the walk. And she finally bought into a B minus meal plan instead of always trying to get that A meal plan and then ending up with some F's, and it averaging out to no weight loss, no weight gain, but no weight loss, which was her goal. And about a year later, she's down 30 something pounds, less joint pain, feeling good, more energy, and really now understands the concept of just doing something and being consistent. And I've heard her say multiple times, I'm not worried about having to start again because I'm never going to stop. And when you're playing with that perfection, it's always a stop go game. And now she's just playing that nice consistent game. And if she can't get to everything she's supposed to get to, then we just do something small, but we make sure it gets done, and we kind of keep that progress going.
Absolutely. That's something kind of prevents that yo-yo up and down, starting, stopping, that I know is super common. I know I'm guilty of it myself. So having
Yeah,
that
yeah,
baseline.
it does. And it builds confidence too, because um you're always doing something.
Mhm.
And so now that confidence starts to grow when you do that. And also you kind of don't want to break the cycle.
Right.
Like I've been doing this for so long and consistently, then, I don't want to not do something. So I'll just do this, and that doesn't work when you got that perfectionism mindset. That thought isn't even there for you.
Right. That always something is what builds that habit, those
Hmm.
habits rather, and the consistency. And
Hmm.
we've talked about motivation before on several episodes, but what's the deeper reason why systems will beat willpower every time?
Yeah, well, that motivation is emotional, man. And like how that goes. Motivation comes and goes. Like one day you're hot, one day you're cold. And like you can't help that, but you can't
Mhm.
build a healthy system on that. You know, whereas systems provide structure,
Right.
and they're building blocks to living a healthy lifestyle, right? And so one of my favorite quotes by James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, is you don't
Mhm.
rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And when you have those systems in place and you just carry out those systems, it makes living a healthy lifestyle so much easier. And the systems don't really rely on how you feel,
Right.
and so the motivation is great when it's there because it makes the system, I guess, a little faster, a little easier, but you don't need motivation to operate a system. You just run your system, and it makes it a lot easier in so many ways. It's success by design, and it removes the emotion from it. So the key is you just got to create these systems, and you got to have them for the different areas of your life that relate to a healthy lifestyle, right? So you got to have a system for stress, and you need one for sleep, and you need one for hydration, and you need one for nutrition, and you need one for movement. But once you create those systems and you start to carry them out, then they just become kind of habitual, and they're very easy. They're very easy for you to incorporate into your life.
Absolutely, because if you have those systems in place, it's your routine. You know what you need to do, and it takes the guesswork and that emotion out of, like, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm
There you
out of the
go.
mood. I had a bad day. Once you build it, it's like you'll feel off if you don't function that way.
Exactly. Exactly. But like I said, the thing I really like about them is that it's the default
Hmm.
of the system is success, right? You're actually getting what you need out of whatever the system's created for, and it's done by default. It doesn't even need anything from you but just to operate the system. It's in some ways it's better than discipline.
Absolutely. And talking about systems, I know you have so many, but can you break down one system, for example, that you use personally that really keeps you consistent, even on your worst days or days where you really don't feel like it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll give you a couple. Um, I always talk about my hydration system because that's one that I struggle with for so long. I'm
Mhm.
trying to drink 100 ounces of water, and some days I would get it in, and some days I wouldn't. But once I created my system that works for me, that's the other thing about systems is they have to fit into your lifestyle. They got to be customized to you. And
Mhm.
so for me, what I do is when I get up, I drink 20 ounces of water. It's the first thing I do. And then after breakfast, I take some vitamins, 20 more ounces of water. And then either I walk out the house with a nice big 20 something ounces of herbal green tea, or I'll go
Mm.
right to Starbucks and buy some. So, by 8 o'clock in the morning, I got 60 ounces of water in my body. And then I'll make sure I get 20 ounces at lunch, 20 ounces at dinner. So that's my 100 ounces. Now, I drink more than that,
Mhm.
but I know I've got the barrier already covered. So if I'll have a protein shake, if I drink during a workout, if I'm sipping water during the day, that's all just bonus to that system. So I kind of built in a nice little buffer, into the system. But that's the system I use every day. I get up, every day I drink the water. Every
Especially
day.
doing it early kind of front
Sure,
loads,
sure.
you
It makes
know?
it a lot easier. It allows me to sleep at night because at
Mhm.
midlife, you know, you're getting up a couple of times at night to go to the bathroom if you're drinking water too late, so it allows me to do it in the morning.
For sure. I'm trying to be like you. I got my big old cup here.
Nice, 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 nice. Then I'm
That's like
drinking
my
some
system.
nice little
Okay.
herbal tea as well. So this is all bonus. So the
Mhm.
other one I'll say, is like it's more like a eating formula, and it's
Mhm.
just protein, veggie, smart carb. And, the listeners can use this anytime because this just works like a charm. Protein, veggie, smart carb. This works for eating at home. This works for eating at a restaurant. This
Mhm.
works for eating on vacation. I was using this when I was on vacation in France. So it's pretty simple. That's how you build a meal, you know, and you can follow that. And if you do that, you're going to eat healthy 90% of the time. You're not going to have any issues. And it's simple. And oftentimes we think for something to be successful, it's got to be like grandiose and complicated.
Mhm.
No, that's just a real simple eating formula. And yes, I guess you could say it's boring, but being consistent sometimes is boring, but it makes it very easy. And it's an easy formula. Look at your plate. Is protein first? Do you have some veggies on there? And is it a smart carb? Right? Is it
Mhm.
macaroni and cheese? Or is it couscous or some sort of sweet potato? Right? And so that's how you can build out a meal. That's a simple formula.
Yeah. And I remember even on a prior episode talking about how, consistency can be boring and to an extent, of
Oh, yeah.
course, but it doesn't have to be because once you find something you like, you said like you could play around with different spices, different ways to make it. So,
Absolutely.
you can find those foundational things that you like and, switch them up a little so it's not super boring in the sense that it's the same thing
Correct.
over and over.
Correct. Yeah, it's not the same dry chicken breast.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
so you often say that weight loss isn't the goal per se, but health is more so the goal.
Hmm.
So what happens when people really shift their focus from scale to lifestyle?
They have success. People want to lose weight, and sometimes they get so driven by the scale that they start to think that the scale number is health. The scale number is not health.
Hmm.
Okay. That's just a reflection sometimes of the quality of health that you're actually living, but what you want to focus on is health, right? And if you focus on the things that will allow you to build a healthy lifestyle, right? Or things that are health, eating well, strength, movement, sleep, all of those qualities kind of lead into the actual scale going down. But when you try to restrict or try to limit health to a number on the scale, you're so narrow minded that you start to do stupid things, right? Next thing you
Hmm.
know, you're not eating. Next thing you know, you're not eating carbs. Next thing you know, you're doing all these crazy kind of plans, all because of the number,
Hmm.
right? And that's not what health is about. And if you focus more on the health, then the number will follow. It'll be a byproduct of what you want. And the thing about it is, those are the things that are sustainable too, right? If you focus on the healthy things, those are sustainable habits that will allow you to be successful ultimately in the long run.
For sure. And what unexpected victories do your clients experience once they let go of chasing the number? They're not focused so much on the scale, but more so focused on the lifestyle and the changes they've made.
What on it? Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom, all that damn stress from the darn scale numbers off their back, right? Now they're starting to apply consistency to areas that will help to move the scale down. So now they're feeling more confident. They got more energy, might even have a little bit of a better sex drive. They've got all these positive things going on that are building these non-scale victories, right? And ultimately, people always talk about wanting to lose weight and the number to go down. That's really not what they want. It really isn't. I mean, what they want is what's going to be the result of the weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
how they're going to feel. They want confidence, they want freedom, they want energy. And so focusing on just the number on the scale, you don't get those things. You don't get those things, you know? And so those non-scale victories, I mean, people telling me that, that for years they've sat in the back of family photos
Mm-hmm.
and now they're sitting in the front, right? Or I just had this grandma tell me the other day how she didn't have to sit down every 5 minutes, you know, playing with her grandkids. And like those are huge victories. And personally, I'd argue that they're more important than the scale, right? Those are life victories,
Mm-hmm.
and especially at midlife, right? We're looking for those type of things. We understand the quality of those type of experiences. But if you're just focused solely on the scale, you're missing a big part of the game, and that piece of the puzzle is so big that you may never solve it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Those are huge victories. And especially just having that confidence of not, especially with pictures and photos, it's like people's biggest gripe and insecurity. So having that confidence to go to the front of the photo is so gratifying. And, being able to play and not feel tired and out of breath and exhausted and feeling that internal change must be so rewarding. Like the scale does
Hmm.
not matter at that point. Who knows what the
No, it
scale, no
doesn't.
one's
It
looking at the
doesn't.
scale in that
You,
moment?
yep, yep. And they learn that. And they
Mhm,
learn that. They realize that, you know what, this is like this is big and this feels good for me. And that's where that
mhm.
confidence comes in. That's where that energy comes in. That's where that freedom comes in. And that's ultimately what they're looking for.
Yeah,
Forget the 160 or number or whatever the number may be. That's ultimately, what people are looking for.
for sure. And that's also affects everyone around them too.
Hmm.
Everyone else is probably happier, getting to enjoy them more. And it's working on yourself that's also, impactful to those around you too.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
it's such
In
a big.
every aspect of your life. Your
Mhm,
family, your work, your community, like you show up differently, right?
for
It's the best
sure.
version of you that's coming out, and that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, especially in midlife, carry around some sort of guilt around their health habits.
Hmm.
So, I mean, specifically midlife, but also I'm sure that's pretty much a general statement. But
Yeah.
how do you help someone, especially in midlife, turn that guilt into self compassion and momentum?
Yeah, well, guilt doesn't guilt doesn't lead to a healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't lead to anything. Guilt suppresses how people perform and how they feel. So it's got no place. It's got no place in anybody looking for long-term success. You just got to let that shit go, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And what you really want to do is, focus on the positive or what it is that you can change to have that positive impact, right? Because that's going to propel you forward. You don't want to be stamped down into a lower position. You want to be actually elevated to a higher position. And so as long as you're suffering with guilt in terms of how you're living, then you're going to struggle. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
struggle. And so, my thing is, we're not going to focus on those thoughts. We're going to focus on what we can do, right? Forget about what transpired or what happened. What can you do now to improve? And let's
Mm-hmm.
just focus on that. And eventually we go back to talk about or look at that situation and talk about how we could have approached it differently, right? Or created a different outcome. But it's not even important at that point because it's over. Let's talk about what we can do now and how we can pivot the situation so that it's not one of suppression, but one of more elevation.
Right. That guilt will hold you back. So how can we move forward and build that momentum?
Yeah, it doesn't help. It don't help, man. It don't help nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And so what role does identity play in making sustainable changes?
Pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. It's like the hidden engine behind behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're someone who feels as though you can't be disciplined, then you're going to continue to act as someone who can't be disciplined
Right.
because that's how you've identified yourself. And if you identify as someone who's looking to live a healthier life or lives a healthy life, then all those actions that you take that allow you to do that are just positive affirmations and vote for that new identity. And so identity is key. I mean, transformation, a lot of people say it's about behavior change, but it's not. It's about identity change.
Mm-hmm.
And then identity change kind of begets the behavior change. So how you identify, starting with that mind, man, that is like extremely important because once you get that right, and once you identify as somebody, whoever, who lives a healthy lifestyle or performs a certain way or is a certain person in your family, once you identify as that, then you start to actually bring the behaviors in that actually kind of result or support that identity. And next thing you know, you're there.
Right. You have to think it before you can actually do it. That thought process and then all the actions to reinforce that thought process. And like you said, it's not just about behavior, it's really about identity. Never thought about it like that, but that's so smart.
Yeah, yeah, because that identity's first. And
Uh-huh.
then it pulls in the behaviors and you start to look for the behaviors. Because if I'm identifying as somebody that's healthy, then healthy people don't stay up till midnight watching Netflix. And
Uh-huh.
okay, well, I got to start going to bed earlier. Boom. And that habit came from, or that behavior came from how you identify yourself as a person who lives a healthy lifestyle.
Right, for sure. You have to think it and then act upon it. Like in a way, not fake it till you make it, but in a way, fake it till you make it. Like start with that mindset and then take the right steps to get there. You
Sure.
had said something in another episode prior to this that was very quotable, and I'm blanking out on what it was. But it was it was
Hmm.
something about that mindset and that identity and having that thought lead you. So it's not about the behaviors, it's not about any of those things. It's really the identity and how you have to think that and then make those changes after. Like it all has to be a cohesive thing, but starting with that thought process versus
Sure.
starting with these habits and chasing perfection. You think it and then you kind of become it.
Comment. Yeah, I mean, people oftentimes, especially with weight loss, is I can't lose this 20 pounds. Nope, you can't, because you're identifying as somebody who can't lose 20 pounds. How the hell you gonna lose it
Right.
now?
Right.
So you gotta kind of change the way that you're identifying or thinking, and then naturally you'll start to pull in those things that are very important to it, especially if you got somebody supporting you and
Mhm.
providing you with the coaching to get there.
For sure. Yeah. Support is definitely super helpful and crucial for some people to be able
Hmm.
to make those changes.
Sure.
And so, what do you think separates those who make more of a temporary change from those who live transformed?
The people typically make changes when they're in pain, right?
Hmm.
And so people come in, or people want to lose to 20 pounds because they're in some sort of pain that they're trying to get out of, right? And that often leads to that short-term success, because they want to get out of the freaking pain. But
Hmm.
but truly the long-term people, or the transformation people, that's all about vision. They're not trying to get out of pain. They're trying to get into a place, right? And that's the difference between the short term and the long term results, because it's easy to get out of the pain, but once you're out of the pain, some people forget about it and they fall right back into it, right?
Hmm.
Whereas the people who have the vision of, this is where I want to be, this is how I want to live, this is how I want to feel, this is what I want from my health, they're working on a whole different level. And that vision that they're looking for is long term. And
Hmm.
that's the difference between the two. And oftentimes, people aren't aware of this. And, when I come in or when I work with them online, I understand they're in pain. As soon as you do the consultation, you hear all about the pain. And I personally, my coaching style is, I use that pain to help them get to where they need to. But constantly we're talking about, what do you want from your health? That's the vision.
Hmm.
That's the vision. Right now, they just want to lose this weight and get out of this pain. But ultimately, what is it that you want from your health? And like I said, it comes down to freedom, confidence, and energy. Okay, then we got to do these things if we want to get there.
For sure. And when you're saying you're having these consults and people are in pain, and it's pretty much all related to weight. Well, for the most part, right? So is it joint pains? Like, what are some of like the common pains that people do come in and complain about?
Lack of confidence. That's the number
Mhm.
one. They want to feel good in their skin. They want to feel good in their clothes. Their clothes don't fit. They don't look good in them anymore. They don't want to be going out to a social event and not have anything to wear, or not like the way that they look in certain things. That's a painful. Nobody wants to, especially at midlife. We don't want that shit. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to deal with that. I mean, we just want to go out and enjoy ourselves and have a good time. But the fact that you can't find anything to wear that you look good and comfortable in, that's a pain. That's a pain. You know, the fact that you can't play with your grandkids, or that you do have to sit, or you do have to move to the back of the photos because you're not really feeling good about the way you look per se. That's, that's pain. That's
Mhm.
pain. So I didn't mean pain in a physical way,
Yeah.
although people come in because of that too. Like my joints ache, my back aches, my this hurts, my that hurts, because I've got too much weight on my body. That's a
Mhm.
that's a pain pain as well. But the pain doesn't have to be physical.
Right. A lot of like emotional, mental
Sure, sure,
agony and pain as well.
sure. No, that pain can come from a lot of ways, come from a
Hmm.
lot of places.
Absolutely. And for someone who is listening today, what is the first step for someone listening who does want to become this version of themselves that they've always imagined? How would
Call
they
me,
start?
call me.
There
I
you
got
go.
you. I
Yeah.
got you. That's the only step you need to make. That's the first step and only step. But no, just, I mean, outside of that, the first step is, figuring out what it is that you want from your health and writing it down, because that everyone has that thing up in their head that they say they want, you know, but
Mhm.
it becomes real when you write it down. Like when it's in your head, it's just an idea. But you got to write it down and then do one thing today to move you closer to it, right? Not tomorrow, not on Monday, right? Which is what we do. No, if that's what you want and you can write it down, then you can do something right then. Whether that means move a little more, whether that means drink a little bit more water, whether that means put down the third glass of wine, there's something that you can do right now that identifies with what you wrote that you can act upon. And
Mhm.
again, those acts are acts of affirmation. Those acts are votes. And once you start to do that and you start to see yourself do that, then you're on your way. So yeah. So the first thing you can do is get clear about what you want for your health and then write it down and then act and then act. Don't give yourself an excuse. Oh, okay, this is what I want, but I'm gonna wait till Monday, and then all you're gonna do is eat everything in the damn house until Monday. Like, don't do that. You know what I mean? You can act on that one like tonight. It happens to be Wednesday when we're recording this. You can do
Mhm.
it Wednesday, right? You don't have to wait till Monday or Sunday. You know. So that's all, and then build. Start slow, right? Build, be consistent. You're on your way.
I think that that's so smart too, just writing it down, something so simple. Because, like you said, if it's in your head, it really is an idea. I know
We
I'm
all got
speaking,
stuff in our head, man.
me, I'm like, idea, 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 might write it in my notes. But the second that I actually do write something on paper, it's like,
Mhm.
this is more
Mhm.
so a plan. This is something that has to get done.
Mhm.
Like, even my to do lists have to be handwritten. So
Oh,
that
sure.
just motivated me for after this. I'm going to write some things down.
Sure. Sure.
And Doug, so this is our 10th episode, which is
Wow.
crazy how time has flown already, but
Yeah.
a little reflection time here. So, looking back on the first 10 episodes, what has surprised you about the conversations that you've had?
What is well, there's been many. I can tell
Mhm.
you. And I'm surprised with between the emails and people reaching out. It's been personally, it's been kind of rewarding for me because I didn't do this to I do this to help people,
Mhm.
but I didn't do it for people to be reaching out to me, type thing. But you got to help any way that you can. So I would say the one thing that's probably been the most consistent is kind of like permission,
Mhm.
and people don't need more rules, especially at midlife. I'm not looking for any more rules, but people do need the power of permission to start messy, right? And to not be perfect, right? And to come back after they've fallen off.
Mhm.
And a lot of times from these messages, I'm finding that people didn't think transformation was a reality at midlife
Mhm.
because they're caught up in some of that perfection and some of that other stuff. And what they needed was just, the permission to, like I said, just start small, start messy. Don't be worried if you make a mistake, you know, don't have to be perfect. And that's been a great a great reflection that I think the listeners have gotten out of this, because this
Mm-hmm.
is the feedback that I see when I hear from people, um, that if I had to sum it up, that they just needed permission. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, you've got the permission to start where you are and to manage this process through midlife how you desire to do it. And that's been one of the takeaways that I got out of it.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway too. It's like you said, people don't want more rules. We're tired of rules.
Mm-mm.
So I could only, especially, midlife, tired of rules, that permission and hearing it from someone who is an expert and knowledgeable about you, about how you don't need perfection. You don't need, the Sunday 3 hours in the kitchen meal plan. You don't need all these things and fancy things and, this whole huge change initially. Like you said, start messy and just start. Like start anywhere and start
Hmm.
building those things, and really those shifts are what will, be so transformative. So
No, they will, and the reality is, at midlife, our bodies are changing. Some of
mhm,
our bodies are breaking down. There's all kind of hormonal shifts going on, and all kind of different challenges that come with this time in life. But transformation is still a possibility. It
mhm,
still is a possibility, and just relating that message to people is what really the show is all about, you know? And so hearing people getting the permission or feeling that they now have the permission to start wherever they are and, start messy and all that kind of stuff is it's rewarding for me because it lets me know that what we're doing and the conversations that we're having and the informations that we're sharing is being received in a very positive light, and people are applying it and they're having success.
for sure. And so absolutely start messy. And it's great that people are having those like key takeaways. And I like that they are sharing that feedback with you too. So that, the impact that you're making as well.
Sure. Yo, yeah. And that feels good. that's
For
that's
sure.
um that's my mission is to help as many people live a healthy lifestyle and make it as simple for them and cut through all the stuff that's out there, and allow them to be success and live their best life and feel good and have more energy, and max this thing out as we're on the other side of it
Hmm.
you know
Absolutely. And Doug, today you have laid out the real differences between surface change and deep transformation. So if you're listening and if any one of those shifts we spoke about hit home, do not keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend who's ready to really break that cycle and build something real. And remember, you do not need a perfect plan. You just need to start showing up differently, one shift at a time. Start messy, just start.
Mhm.
So thank you again for this episode, Doug. And we will see you next week for episode 11.
Awesome, sounds good, looking forward to it.